So here on the channel, we talk a lot about the Chase Trifecta setup and how it's one of the best credit card setups in the space. But today I wanted to flip the script and talk to you guys about another Trifecta setup that exists in the credit card space known as the Amex Trifecta. And in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys everything you need to know about this setup, as well as my personal thoughts on it and whether it's worth it or not for 2023. And I'll be sharing with you guys what credit cards currently make up the Trifecta, the pros and cons of this setup, the best strategy I found when using this setup, and towards the end of the video, I'll also be sharing with you guys whether or not I believe it is better than the Chase Trifecta. So starting off with the credit cards that actually make up this setup, you have the American Express Gold card that comes in with an annual fee of $250. You have the American Express Platinum card that has a $695 annual fee. Then you have the American Express Blue Business Plus that comes in with no annual fee. And with all three of these credit cards in your wallet, you're pretty much guaranteed to net more profit than you would get with using any other just ordinary credit card in the credit card market. So for example, the Gold card is going to have you covered with anything related to food, whether that's dining out or getting groceries. You're going to get 4x back on restaurants, dining, and takeout. You're going to get 4x back on grocery store purchases up to the first $25,000 spent each year. And then if you're someone who wants to get the most amount back when they're booking travel, whether that be an airline or a hotel, if you book those through the American Express travel portal, the Platinum card will get you 5x back on those purchases. And then lastly, with the Blue Business Plus, you're going to be able to get 2x back on all other purchases outside of those categories for the first $50,000 spent each year. And one of the main reasons, or a big reason why this credit card setup is actually such a powerhouse to have, is just because with these three credit cards in your wallet, they cover a majority of the categories that people tend to spend the most amount of money in. Next up, I want to talk to you guys about how I would recommend using this setup for the maximum amount of value, as well as how I've personally used this setup since having it. So like I said earlier, anytime I'm spending any money on food, whether that be dining out or buying groceries, it's always going to go on the American Express Gold card to get that 4x back. And then typically if I'm booking a flight or a hotel, I will typically try to do it through the American Express travel portal to get the 5x back with the Platinum card. And then like I said, for everything else outside of those categories, I'm putting it on the Blue Business Plus to get a 2x back on all of those other purchases. And the first question is going to be, are you currently working on hitting a spend requirement for a sign-up bonus? And if the answer to this question is yes, then I would always recommend putting whatever purchases you're making or most of your expenses on a monthly basis onto this one credit card, because that's going to allow you to hit that sign-up bonus a lot easier and a lot quicker than if you were spreading it out across a few different credit cards. And yes, that may mean that you're missing out on some extra points in the short term, because maybe you're not using a credit card that earns the most amount back in that particular category you're spending money on. However, once you do hit that sign-up bonus, you're going to be gaining a lot more points and a lot more value than just those few points you missed out on in the short term. The second question you're going to want to ask yourself is identifying what type of purchase you're making. And really what I mean by this is just identifying the value of the item you're purchasing. So for example, just because different credit cards offer different protections, warranties, and things like that, if you're purchasing a very expensive item or a very valuable item, like maybe you're purchasing a new expensive cell phone or a new laptop or something along those lines, then you might want to consider putting it on something like the American Express Platinum, for example, just because that credit card tends to offer some of the best purchase protection, and it also gives you an extended 1-year warranty on top of your manufacturer's warranty. And so again, yes, you might be missing out on a few extra points right then and there. However, having that extra warranty and that purchase protection is going to be a lot more beneficial to you, especially if something were to happen to that item you purchased. Maybe you drop your phone, spill some water on your laptop, whatever the case may be. Having that purchase protection and that additional warranty is definitely going to be able to save you more money in the long term. Now, moving over to the pros and cons of this setup, the first pro that I have is if you are someone who doesn't want to carry a ton of different credit cards around, or you just want to keep your wallet pretty simplistic and minimal when it comes to credit cards and things like that, then a great thing about this setup is it's going to have you covered in pretty much any scenario you're spending money on. And the second pro of this setup I have for you is if you are someone who is currently using a lot of American Express travel partners, then being able to pull pull all of your American Express MR points together and transfer them out to an airline or a hotel can definitely be very beneficial to you, especially if maybe you're wanting to take a trip later this year, or you're planning a trip in the future, and maybe you want to be able to get some plane tickets for free, or you want to be able to get some of the nights at your hotel for free. Then being able to take the various sign-up bonuses from these 3 different credit cards and put them all together, combine them, and transfer them out to an airline or a hotel partner is something that could definitely be beneficial for you. Now, just like with anything else that has its downsides and its cons, obviously the American Express Trifecta is no different. And the first and probably the biggest con that I have with this setup is that American Express cards are not accepted everywhere, and they're not accepted worldwide, meaning that if these are the only 3 credit cards that you ever carry in your wallet, if you were maybe out to dinner or you're trying to buy something in the store and that particular merchant or restaurant doesn't accept American Express, then this can definitely be a tricky situation, and you might find yourself out of luck in a situation like this. Additionally, the American Express Trifecta does come in with a very hefty annual fee at $945 per year, and yes, the setup in the credit cards that it has does offer an extensive list of benefits and credits and things like that that you can use to kind of offset that annual fee sum. However, if you are someone who doesn't really use Uber a whole lot, or you're someone who is maybe loyal to another credit card brand or something like that, it can make it a little bit harder to actually get the full value out of this setup. So really quickly, I want to share with you guys the best strategy I found for this setup, but something I do want to mention first is just because you hear someone talking about the Trifecta or maybe saying it's the best setup you can have when it comes to credit cards, doesn't mean you have to go out and get this setup, or you have to just rush out and get all 3 of these credit cards on the list. For example, if you are someone who doesn't ever really dine out, or you don't spend a whole lot on food each month, and you're someone who doesn't travel a whole lot either, then it would be very hard to make this setup work for you and for you to find total value in this setup. So it's always important before getting any credit card that you always take a look at your personal situation and what it is you're trying to accomplish with credit cards, so you can make a smart, informed decision on whether it's worth it for you or not. And lastly, remember that if you want to get this set up and you want to apply for the credit cards, don't just rush out and apply for all of these credit cards in a short period of time, because not only is this going to negatively impact your credit score as a whole, it's going to severely lower your chances of actually getting approved for these credit cards. So even if you maybe have the American Express Gold and you hit the sign-up requirement in maybe a few weeks or a month, don't just rush out and say, oh, I'm going to apply for the Platinum next and then the Blue Business Plus. Just like with any other credit cards, I would always recommend you wait a minimum of at least 2 to 3 months in between credit card applications. So yes, if you want to get this set up, it could potentially be something that takes 6 to 9 months even to actually get, but trust me, in the long run, it's going to be much better for you. You're going to have a better chance of being approved, and your credit score is going to be in a better shape because of it. And lastly, talking about how this setup stacks up against another really popular trifecta setup known as the Chase Trifecta. So similar to the Amex Trifecta, the Chase Trifecta is a combination of 3 different credit cards that allow you to earn points in different categories that people tend to spend most of their money in. You can then redeem those points for special rewards or bonuses or things like travel, all coming in with a much lower annual fee of only $95 per year with the Chase Trifecta. And what I do think is that if you are someone who hardly ever travels and you don't eat out a whole lot and you don't use services like Uber that often, you're going to find much more value in something like the Chase Trifecta over the Amex Trifecta. However, if you do travel regularly, you eat out a lot, you use Uber or Uber Eats on a regular basis, then the Amex Trifecta is definitely going to suit you more, and you'll find more value with the American Express Trifecta. If you are someone who just values simplicity and overall ease of use, then the Chase Trifecta definitely shines a little bit more in this area, because Chase does make it very simple and straightforward to just extract a lot of value out of their setup. It's a little bit easier to use and just a little bit more friendly for beginners overall. But while the Amex Trifecta does require you to put a little bit more work and a little bit more effort into to actually get the full value out of these credit cards, if you are someone who is traveling regularly, use Uber or Uber Eats, you eat out a lot, and you value getting things like instant hotel statuses, airline statuses, and things like free room upgrades when available, then the American Express Trifecta has you covered in that area. So for the bottom line in my overall conclusion, I do think that now in 2023, the American Express Trifecta has become just a little bit overrated. And I do think that for the majority of people, you're going to benefit much more from having your own combination of credit cards that suit you and your personal lifestyle and that allow you to earn points and rewards based on what you do and what you spend money on the most. I am definitely interested to know what you guys think of the American Express Trifecta for 2023. Is it a setup that you're currently looking at getting, or maybe one that you already have? So definitely let me know what you think of it and if you think it's overrated or not by dropping a comment down below. If you enjoyed the video and found it informative, I would appreciate it if you could drop a like down there as well, and consider subscribing to the channel if you're new and are interested in more personal finance and credit card tips just like the ones in this video. As always, each and every one of you are amazing, and I hope each and every one of you have a fantastic rest of your day.